TKZK is a new subsidiary or sister brand of ChiFi. So this is their first IEM release. Pretty interesting stuff. So in this video, I'm taking a look at the TKZK Wave. Let's get it. What's cracking, audio fans? It's David here from Prime Audio Review. So I'm here with the TKZK Wave. Pretty interesting stuff, man. Like, I'm not sure exactly the reason why ChiFi has branched off in this manner, but hey, it's another more choices for the consumers is always a good thing, right? Now, I'll quickly show you some of the accessories. Basically, it's your basic budget package. You get a few ear tips. Quality of the ear tips is not too bad, but they're obviously too small for my ears. And you get this little fabric pouch as well. But let's have a look now at the earphones. Here's the shell. It's got this nice wavy pattern on the front, but it's smooth. It's got a smooth cover over it. Translucent shells at smoky grey color. Got your typical mesh filter on the nozzle there, that funny 2-pin connector there, QTC. I'm not sure if it's called QTC or Type C or whatever, but you know, the one that we're all used to. But in terms of build, they look really nice. The shells are very comfortable for me as well. They are a little bit big, they're kind of wide, so they protrude out from your ears a little bit, but as far as comfort goes, they're pretty good. The cable, on the other hand, is a little bit disappointing. It's basically your generic KZ or TRN budget cable. So it tangles very easily because it's so thin above the Y-split. But apart from that, it does the job and it doesn't have microphonics. So yeah, what can you expect? The price, by the way, is around $36, and this is a hybrid dual driver IEM. It's got one dynamic driver and one balanced armature. Let's get right into the sound now, and I'll start by throwing the graph up for you here. And you can see there, it's a pretty linear looking curve there. It's fairly neutral in its overall presentation. The tonality, overall tonality, leans slightly towards bright, and it has a lot of similarities to the HZ Sound heart mirror, and I'll do a quick comparison with that in a little while. But first of all, let's talk about the bass on the Wave here. And the bass is fairly light. It does have a really nice sub-bass extension, so it actually digs deep. The quantity of the bass is not very high, but it's a good quality bass. I really like it quite a bit. Like I said, good sub-bass extension. It does get a bit of a rumble. It does feel authoritative even though it's light in quantity. The mid bass itself is pretty punchy. It's pretty quick. I don't find it sluggish. It's got a natural weight to it, fair amount of. And then as we move into the lower mid-range, it dips reasonably quickly. So it is a little bit thin in the, well, I won't say thin, I'll say it's very neutral throughout the core mid-range. And then of course you get a slight lift in the upper mid-range. Not as harsh or not as extreme as what you get with the Moondrop SSR. Different, this one peaks at 2 kilohertz, this one peaks at 3 kilohertz. And the way that this one does it is the upper mid-range is sort of pretty much in line with the lower treble, and the end result is a tonality that's pretty even but fairly forward in terms of treble brightness. The mid-range has very good clarity, vocals are articulate, and the overall detail retrieval is quite impressive here. Instrument separation in the mid-range is quite good. Overall resolution pretty decent, not too bad at all considering the price. It's not magnificent, but you can't really expect too much for 36 bucks. So far we're doing pretty well. One thing I really enjoy about the mid-range on the Wave is its timbre. It sounds pretty natural and pretty accurate to me. And in fact, I think this monitor, in-ear monitor, would be pretty good for content creators or people doing music mixes or editing and things like that, because it's quite accurate in terms of tone. And then we've got the treble, and like I said, the treble is a little bit forward, but it is a very nice quality treble. It is a bit sparkly, it's got some airiness to it. It provides us with all that lovely clarity and detail throughout the mid-range and the rest of the spectrum. You get nice definition on percussion instruments. Electric guitars sound nice and crisp and they've got a bit of bite to them. And overall, the Wave is fairly impressive for a budget IEM. It might not suit everybody. It does lean a little bit towards bright, but I don't find it fatiguing in any way unless I sort of turn up the volume a bit much. One thing I did find is that the Wave here is, well, for my preferences, it's better to listen in a controlled, quiet environment, like in my room here, in my office, because the level of the bass is fairly light. And when I was out and about, I went out for a ride on the motorcycle, and the bass just wasn't enough to cut through the rest of the noise. I could hear the mids and the treble fine, and I could hear kick drums reasonably well, but I wasn't getting a lot of bass guitar and sub bass rumble and things like that. But when you listen to it in a nice quiet environment, yeah, those lower frequencies really come through, and it sounds great that way. But let's do a couple of quick comparisons. We'll start with the Moondrop SSR, or Spaceship Reference, and these have a fairly similar tonality. The core difference being that the SSR here puts a fairly huge emphasis on 3 kilohertz peak, so upper mid-range, really massive upper mid-range, and after that it kind of falls off. The treble on the SSR is actually slightly behind that upper mid-range peak, so the perceived treble on the Wave here is a little bit more, it's a little bit more forward, but both of these have a very nice smooth treble. I would say the Wave is a little bit more detailed. It even has slightly better clarity, and on top of that it has better sub-bass extension, where the SSR has a bit of sub-bass roll-off. The next one is the HZ Sound Heart Mirror, and this is well, it has gained some momentum and there are some real steadfast fans for this IEM, but I think it's a little bit lacking representation. It probably deserves a little bit more attention than it gets. And I'm partly to blame for that, because I was a bit blasé. I think I never actually made a video on this. I could be wrong, but this is actually a really good IEM for its price, which is about between $40 and $50, I think. I'll put it up on the screen here, but yeah, it's very good. It's got metal shells compared to the plastic shells of the Wave, and the SSR has metal shells as well. Now, in terms of tonality, it's quite similar indeed to the Wave here. Actually, I'll put up the comparison graph for you here. You can see they're very close there. Core difference being that the Heart Mirror has a very subtle roll-off in the sub-bass, puts a little bit more emphasis on the mid-bass, but then it's also a little bit more forward in the lower mid-range. And what that does, it gives it a little bit more body, a little bit more warmth in the lower mid-range. Now, as a result, the Wave here has slightly better clarity, but the HZ Sound, the HZ Sound Heart Mirror, that name hasn't helped its popularity, I guarantee you that. But the Heart Mirror here it's just a little bit more musical, a bit more forgiving in the mid-range. And in terms of the treble, they're fairly similar there as well, but because there's a little more fullness in the mid-range, the treble doesn't sound as forward as it does on the Wave. I hope you understand what I'm saying with that. Trying to help you out here, trying to help myself out here, but I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. So the TKZK, I really want to say TKZK, but I know people will freak out and say, why aren't you saying Z? The TKZK Wave is, in my opinion, it is a pretty good IEM. I actually quite like it a lot. It's probably not something I would use as a daily driver for music. However, if I was working on an edit or mixing, like I said before, I would, I'd have a pretty hard time choosing between these three because they all have certain characteristics that are really good for that. The Wave has its clarity and its detail retrieval and that nice sub-bass extension. The HZ Heart Sound, did I get that wrong? Yeah, I got it wrong again. The HZ Sound Heart Mirror sounds a little bit fuller, a little bit warmer and relaxed, but it's not quite as resolving. Well, actually, I won't say resolving, I'll say it's not quite as detailed, but it does have very nice resolution. And finally, there's the Moondrop SSR, supremely comfortable, tiny little shells, a little bit more relaxed overall, especially in terms of treble, but on occasions that 3 kHz peak will raise its head and could cause some problems. But anyway, guys, TKZK Wave, these names, yes, I would recommend it for, not for everybody, but certainly for someone who's looking for something on the lines of neutral or linear. That about wraps it up for this video, guys. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, ParFam audiophile style. If you want to see more stuff like this in the future, make sure you are subscribed. That would really help out the channel. And until next time, see you later.